Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Galaxie and I am here to be frustrated, but hopefully in a productive way. I'm going to apologize right now for probably both the lighting and the audio. I'm obviously in a new location and I'm figuring some things out. Also, if I'm looking over here, it's because I don't have my teleprompter. I have no idea where it is right now. I think it's probably in my garage somewhere. Anyway, welcome to my dining room. So, what am I going to be frustrated about today? A little while ago, quite a bit ago now, a little while ago when I wrote the script, quite a bit ago now, Sarah Zed made a video which is now titled An Exhaustive Defense of Fanfiction. I want to talk about a situation that resulted due to the way that Sarah handled the TikToks she included in the video, which led me down a larger thread about how YouTubers treat TikTok creators and their content in general. I know the situation with Sarah Zed that I'm about to talk about is a bit old news, but honestly that's kind of what I wanted for this situation. I wanted to talk about something that was a little bit further away that people were able to take a step back from already. That way we can try to look at it as objectively as we possibly can rather than dealing with all of the subjective feelings about the situation at hand. So Sarah Zed and Icarus Pendragon aka Berkeley, I'm sorry if this brings up anything for you. I'm genuinely not intending that. Nobody harassed Sarah Zed or Icarus Pendragon about this situation. It's just a really good example of what I want to talk about. So to come at this from as neutral a standpoint as possible, I do want to say that I have been a big fan of both of these creators pretty much since I was introduced to both of them. I was introduced to Sarah Zed first, and I later found Icarus Pendragon via the For You page on TikTok. But as a TikTok creator myself, I am going to have some personal bias in this situation that I'm just never going to be able to separate myself from, and I wanted to acknowledge that before we start. Also, I just want to clarify that I'm not really trying to pass judgment on this situation. I'm more using it as an example of a larger ongoing issue that's been happening over the past few years, and to lead into all of this stuff about TikTok and TikTok content that I want to talk about in a larger space and start a discussion on. So what happened? The basics of the situation from what I've parsed is that Sarah pulled videos from TikTok to use as evidence and to respond to in her video about fanfiction. When doing this, she treated these videos as she would any screenshot of a tweet that she had for any of her other videos. Meaning she blurred out the name and icon of the creators that she was responding to and talking about in her video. In the case of Icarus Pendragon, she also edited the video slightly so she could focus on the point that she was responding to rather than the video at large, much like she would crop out a single tweet from a larger, longer Twitter thread to focus on that particular point. Now, as I've mentioned, one of the videos she happened to do this with was from Icarus Pendragon, a known TikToker who primarily talks about fandom content, and fanfiction, aka Berkeley. Her name is Berkeley. It's easier to say Berkeley than it is to say Icarus Pendragon, so I'm probably going to call her Berkeley from now on. When Berkeley found out that her video was used, a portion of it was edited out, and her credit was removed, Berkeley was rightfully kind of upset about it. Particularly, she was frustrated that she was not credited and it felt like Sarah had taken her video out of context by removing the second half of it. Berkeley left a comment on Sarah's video pretty much right away saying that she was upset about this and it felt like she had been misrepresented, and Sarah wound up immediately clipping the video out of the larger fanfiction video. I'm gonna say video so many times, I'm sorry if it's not clear which video I'm talking about. At first, Sarah expressed that she had chosen not to include Berkeley's username because she said it was the preference of the overwhelming majority of people. In this comment, she says that after reviewing her script, she still thinks that Berkeley's point was correctly represented, but that she's not going to say she doesn't have blind spots. Honestly, pause to read this comment for yourself. I'm sorry this is the best screenshot that I have, but it's the only version I could find because it was later removed and then replaced. I will say, in my personal opinion, Sarah didn't really take accountability for what she had done in this situation in this comment. I think when she wrote it, she probably did in fact think she was taking accountability, and to an extent I do think she was by clipping the video out of her larger video, but I don't think she wrote this clearly enough to make it obvious that she was trying to take accountability. Also, it's my opinion that she misrepresented Berkeley kind of a lot. That being said, I think it is kind of a misnomer and a little bit of a deflection to say that she didn't. I think she was kind of picking out the parts that she wanted to respond to, and I really only say that because this has since happened to me with another entirely unrelated creator, and we worked that situation out, but it's happened to me before, and it's like when you find someone that is using just the first part of your sentence to respond to and ignoring the second half, it can be like really, really frustrating. And I do think that is a misrepresentation of what the person is saying because it's not like the full sentence. That being said, that is just my opinion. More importantly, Berkeley didn't feel like Sarah had taken accountability with this comment, so she was still pretty upset about the situation. In fact, in her video responding to this comment, she actually expresses frustration that Sarah kind of blamed her for it, which yeah. That being said, looking back on this entire situation, trying to be objective about it, I don't think that was Sarah's intention. I think it just kind of came off that way. But I do understand why Berkeley read it that way and would have been incredibly frustrated about it. I think after this, the two wound up handling things privately, mostly because eventually Sarah's video had a different comment put on it from Sarah that said that she did misrepresent Berkeley's video and her point in the video, and that while that was not her intention, the impact was that she had misrepresented Berkeley's words, and that wasn't fair to Berkeley. Also, she apologized. Since then, both creators have completely moved on from this, and like I said, do not bother them about this situation. I am just using it as an example, and these are the details as objectively as I can present them. They have both moved on. But I think there's a larger conversation to be had here. I mean, I probably wouldn't be making this video if there wasn't a larger conversation to be had here, because frankly, I think the two creators honestly handled this situation as well as they possibly could. I think because of their backgrounds and things that they've both experienced prior, this was probably the best outcome out of any outcome in the situation. And also, this was all an honest mistake that I don't think anyone should necessarily be condemned for. And honestly, that's part of the reason I wanted to talk about this situation, is it is so neutral. Ultimately, it was an honest mistake on Sarah's part. They worked it out, and while they might not be the best of friends, they're not enemies afterwards. And that's very important to what I want to talk about in the larger grand scheme of things, which is how Sarah treated Berkeley's video in the first place, and how I think YouTubers at large tend to fumble the ball when it comes to handling putting TikToks in their videos. So now that we have an idea of the facts of the situation and you've got a bit of my opinion on it, let's talk about what the core of the issue is, which is the fact that Sarah treated Berkeley's video like a screenshot of a tweet. Now, this is not something that exclusively Sarah does, and by no means is it a critique of her specifically. It's more about a larger critique of how YouTubers view TikTok like it's any other form of social media when it's really not. Rarely do you see a TikTok, especially one that's doing really well and maybe even going viral, that does not show the creator's face in the video. In fact, not only do you often see their whole face, but you often see parts of their home and their living space in their videos. To the point where one of my TikTok mutuals was doing a bit where he was recording very similar videos to the kinds of videos that I would make in my house while he was staying with me prior to going to a convention together. The whole joke was that people might realize that he is recording in recognizable areas of my home. And this is something that myself and many other TikTok creators have accepted, and it's not like the same thing doesn't happen with YouTubers. Many of them use their own homes as a studio space, and short of having a dedicated filming area with a static background that you record video essays in front of, I missed that. You might get to see a larger portion of that YouTuber's home over the course of many different videos. I think the best example of this is Sophia Nygaard's channel, where throughout the years you saw her bedroom, her kitchen, her office, her filming space, and more. My point here is that being video platforms, both TikTok and YouTube are more attachable to a real-life human being than, say, a Twitter account. This is why I don't think creators who are using TikToks in their YouTube videos should treat them like Twitter screenshots. There's a lot more that needs to be done to handle this content since the creator's face is inherently tied to it. While you can enter the text of a tweet into Twitter to find the original, there's a lot more friction to doing so. You'd have to pause the video, type the text out, and sometimes if the tweet has been deleted, there's nothing to find. Or if the tweet doesn't have enough context, you'll simply find other tweets with the same collection of words. However, due to the algorithm, you can unconsciously stumble upon a TikTok that was used in a YouTube video without meaning to. It's happened to me on many occasions because I like to watch Ludwig Agren react to TikToks on YouTube. Don't judge me. That man is my emotional support himbo. He's not really himbo, but you know what I mean. And that's really what I want to talk about with all of this. Inherently, Sarah was going with what she thought was best practice without realizing that it wasn't best practice for the platform she was pulling from. It's also a big issue when creators do this with TikTok, because very often the things that go viral on TikTok are not from someone who's a capital C creator, but rather some random girl who posted a short clip of her going to see her long-distance boyfriend only to end up having her entire relationship psychoanalyzed by hundreds of thousands of people. Yes, that was fucked up and weird, guys. Nowadays, it's much rarer for a video to go viral on YouTube in this way. I think the last case we saw of this was when van life YouTuber Janelle Iliana, I hope I'm saying that right, posted a single video and it went so incredibly viral that everyone was calling her a YouTube plant. This means there's a lot more nuance to pulling a random TikTok and plopping it into your video than there is with pulling from a big YouTuber. Tweets are more like TikTok because random users will sometimes go viral, but a tweet can more easily be anonymized than a TikTok can because a creator's face is most likely literally in the video. Frankly, I think creators in general need to be more careful about using other people's content without their permission. However, I know it's wishful thinking to say that you should be asking every person whose tweet, TikTok, Twitch stream, or YouTube video you want to include in your video. Hell, I've included clips from videos without asking permission, and I do think that there's some leeway to using another creator's video with full credit. But I think this is an important conversation to have, especially with the popularity of TikTok and the fact that the content on TikTok is almost always going to have the creator's face in it. And there is, of course, more I want to talk about, so let's get into that. It's TikTok time, everybody! Was that too direct? Here's the thing, I'm not gonna sit here and condemn streamers and YouTubers who react to compilations of TikToks. Frankly, I already admitted to watching Ludwig's content of that nature, so I'd be a bit of a hypocrite to sit around and act like it's irredeemable content. However, I do want to discuss the way that content creators from other platforms will sometimes utilize TikTok compilations to create their own content. Now, I think there's an elephant in the room that we need to discuss, and that's the compilations themselves. Pretty often, these content creators aren't watching these videos on the native TikTok app, but rather they're watching compilations on YouTube. At least that's what Ludwig does, and that's what, in my experience, most like Twitch streamers and other YouTubers and other streamers do. So that's the frame of reference I'm going for. If you know people who don't do this, that's sorry. So some channels which make these compilations of TikToks do a great job of asking the original creators if it's okay to use their content, and TikTok automatically includes a watermark, which helps a lot here. However, sometimes when it comes to things like cringe compilations, that's a whole different video. The original creators aren't asked if it's okay to use their content, largely because the person is making the compilation in order to make fun of all of the creators who are in the video. So the person making the YouTube video just stitches them together, plops them on YouTube, and oftentimes monetizes the content that they're posting. This is quite literally happened constantly enough to my mutual Justin, Freddie's roommate, that he no longer has downloads available on his account at all. And we can't talk about all of this without talking about monetization. Monetizing TikTok has only become more difficult as years since its popularity has boomed. And considering that apparently the government is full on considering banning TikTok in the US, you can't just ignore that this is a huge part of the conversation. Of course, maybe the government won't fully ban TikTok in the US, but if it does, there's going to be a whole chunk of the creator economy who is using TikTok as an advertising source who will just entirely lose that source of engagement, and engagement is quite literally how they make their money. And often, engagement is how they are making their money regardless of whether or not they're actually making money off of the individual TikToks that they're making. This is the heart of this particular issue. People are stealing the labor of TikTok creators, a group of creators who can rarely make a living on the platform they're making content for. Now, I know what the trolls are going to say. You're putting something on the internet, so it's not unlikely for it to end up on other platforms or get stolen, or for it to be used in ways that you didn't intend, or whatever you want to say, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. If you're agreeing with the trolls, rethink that. For example, no one's gonna sit around and pretend that stealing art from a small artist, putting it on a Redbubble t-shirt, and selling it for your own gain is okay. At least, if you do think that's okay, you should probably reassess your opinions and think about why you do think that's okay. Of course, there's probably not a ton of money being made this way, but there is money that is being taken away from these original creators. If their video is in a compilation of Best of TTRPG TikTok, and then they try to post a compilation of their own content on their own YouTube channel, it's likely that the Best of the TTRPG TikTok video isn't going to link back to the creator's YouTube video where they could actually make money on it. Relying on the watermark in the original video also creates the same friction that trying to look up a screenshot of a tweet does. Having to go type it into TikTok to look it up is going to result in fewer people looking up a creator that they might have liked if they had found them on TikTok as opposed to finding them in one of these compilations. Like, YouTubers could at least make an effort to find compilations that include sources. For example, Ludwig often watches the channel Unusual Videos, a channel that sources all of the videos in their compilations. Or at least they did at the time that I checked it. This at least makes it better. Also, I can't tell if Unusual Videos is monetized or not. I think it is, but they are at least asking for permission, so hopefully they are disclosing that they are going to be making money off of the videos and the content from those creators if they are monetized. Because here's the thing, like I said, oftentimes people on TikTok that go viral, in a lot of the videos that end up in these compilations, they're not making videos that they would want to put on a separate YouTube channel, nor are they, like I said, capital C creators. So they're not necessarily ever going to make money off of that video, so they might not care at all. But it is important that they're asked. That being said, there's a lot of issues with the ethicality of these compilation videos in the first place, and then bigger streamers or YouTubers will sit back and watch them to farm easy content for their monetized channels. Again, I'm not fully condemning it, but I am questioning it. I am especially questioning it because we saw a situation where PewDiePie, of all people, was making fun of a cringe compilation with his dog. Like, that was literally the basic title of this video. And he came across a video of a woman using sign language as she spoke. This woman happened to have a set of like long acrylic or gel nails on, and she was telling a story. Less than 5 seconds into her video, PewDiePie started to mock her for what he thought was just her gesturing with her long nails, but was actually sign language. Now, I know PewDiePie isn't really a redeemable person in the first place. That's not really my point here. My thing is that this video of this woman signing was stripped of all of its context and dropped into one of these compilation videos, which a huge YouTuber watched, once the biggest creator on the platform, by the way, and then made fun of her for using sign language. I'm not saying that PewDiePie wouldn't have made fun of her if he had known that it was sign language all along, but I also think that if she hadn't had her TikTok dropped into a cringe compilation, this probably wouldn't have happened to her at all. And we see this sort of thing all the time. Frankly, if there's one thing on the internet that needs to die, it's making fun of people who are just trying to live their lives. I'm sorry, but it just drives me so nuts. They're doing absolutely nothing wrong. They're being perfectly harmless, but you feel the need to make fun of them because they're gesturing a lot as they're telling a story and wearing long acrylic nails. I don't, like, even if she wasn't using sign language, I mean, like, totally not, like, removing the hard of hearing sign language part of this conversation. Why did PewDiePie feel the need to make fun of this woman because she was gesturing a lot as she was telling a story and she was wearing long nails? Why? Why does it matter? Also, don't get me started on those TikToks of people making fun of the people dressed as various fantasy characters singing along to Soldier Poet King by the Oh Hellos. That made me so angry, and I could make an entire video about that alone. Like, I could talk about that for 30 minutes if I needed to. Anyway, that being said, all of that being said, let's talk about taking people out of context more. Taking people out of context isn't always on purpose. In fact, I would say it's most often not on purpose at all. However, it is a huge issue on the internet that happens all of the time. For example, not long ago, I ran into a situation where someone stitched one of my TikTok videos so that only 5 seconds of what I was saying was included and completely took the video out of context before spreading a bunch of incorrect information about things I had said in the past. They then blocked me so that I never saw it, and the only reason I found out about it was that some of my mutuals let me know about this. Honestly, I think this is an issue that's more prevalent on TikTok than anywhere else. In a YouTube video, you have the space to run a full 1-minute video because you can make the YouTube video as long as you'd like. In a TikTok, you can only provide up to 5 seconds of context, and sometimes you can only provide less than that so that you can say everything you need to say in the video. This is a huge issue because it causes arguing more than it causes discussion, and sometimes it means your video is taken in bad faith. Someone can make you look really bad, and there's really nothing you can do about it, other than try to jump into the comments of their videos and explain yourself. Even then, they can just delete your comment and block you, so anyone seeing the video after that will never have the context or your defense unless they seek out the original video. You can see why this would be such an issue and why it causes a good amount of frustration. Like I said, I've been in this situation before, and it's really not fun. And obviously this is just speculation, but I do think this is part of the reason that Berkeley was so frustrated with what happened with Sarah Zed in the situation that I talked about at the start of this video. This happens to people on TikTok all the time, which means we're a bit more sensitive to it than others. In fact, I would argue that people who use TikTok as their preferred form of content consumption are actually a little bit better at identifying when it happens to someone than others because we have to do it so often. That being said, I do think we need to start having an open discussion about how we're representing people's words, especially if we haven't asked them permission to use those words. People on TikTok are not the same as academics or YouTubers or Twitter users. All these platforms and creators need to be treated differently to provide equity in how they're being represented. This is quite literally why many people are forced to learn MLA and APA citations in school. MLA especially has detailed ways of crediting authors of books, tweets, news articles, and much more for this very reason, because the context is usually important to a quote being used in an academic context. In addition to that, as a culture, we need to be more careful about how we handle people's words and thoughts, especially when our intention is to critique them. We need to put more consideration into the fact that on TikTok, there's just not nearly as much anonymity as there is on other platforms. With people having lively, detailed, and nuanced conversations on TikTok about all manner of things, we're going to want to respond to them, and with that comes the responsibility to try and represent other people's points as accurately as we possibly can, or at least acknowledge and take accountability when you misrepresented the context or misunderstood the creator's argument. I would also argue it's really important to ensure that when you do take accountability, you do so publicly to clear up any misrepresentation that happened, and also do your best to apologize sincerely. Anyway, thanks for listening. This is something that's been on my mind for a really long time. I wrote this script a while ago, and then I came back to it, and I was actually like really excited about it when I read it again, and I'm still really excited about this topic. I think this is a really important conversation to have overall, so please feel free to get in the comments and have discussions and talk about anything I've said in this video. I didn't really want this video to be me providing my opinions or me trying to sway you in one way or another. I would really like this to spark the discussion, mostly because I don't really know what the resolution to this is. I don't know what the outcome should be here, but I do know that it is a discussion that we need to have, because at this point it's becoming an issue for myself. It's been an issue for other people in the past. Other TikTok creators are having this issue. I'm sure other YouTube creators are doing things like what Sarah did and doing it unintentionally and intentionally, honestly. So with all of that, here are other places that you can follow me. Check me out on Patreon. It would be awesome if you were interested in supporting me there, and you'll get some exclusive access to some content and stuff like that. So yeah, that's Patreon. Well, I'm done now, so okay, bye. Thanks again. I'm gonna go. I'm already regretting the sweatpants. Here, hold on. Let me tuck these in, and then they'll just look like gray pants, right? You know what would make this better? You know, I'm not gonna do that. That's not a good bit. Never mind. I'm not gonna go get a picture of Essex to put in the background of this video. That would be funny though. Everyone has like one emotional support, like, silly YouTuber. Like, he's not dumb, he's just silly.